Hey folks, welcome back to RAMBOMANIA. This is just a little intermission before we get to the film at hand. Before we get to the moment we've all been waiting for, the review of the theatrical cut, the 1982 theatrical cut of First Blood. Now, so just before we get to it, let's just talk about the critical reception of the film. In the end, you know, when it came out in October of '82, the critics just went wild with this movie. So you know, let's just get to some of the stats and some of the highlights about that time and getting to that time and the time after. Now, many would say that the release of First Blood Part 2 would be the starting point for the phenomenon known as Rambomania. I, however, think it kind of started with the release of First Blood itself, because it kind of introduced us to this whole new theory of film. You know, the one-man army, the action classic, as if it were. You know, we've seen so many molds of Rambo throughout the years in other films, even films today. You know, like as Wild Man Beyond would say, even like was that White House Down or whatever it was, the one with Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx. Anyway, in like cinema ever since has had this, you know, how do I'm like, my brain is fried right now. It's been a crazy day. But, yeah, like, cinema since has had this very, you know, Ramboistic presence ever since in the action genre itself, you know. Even in the, you know, drama and, because this film really holds different aspects. I would say, like, drama, action, even horror, and psychological filmmaking. So we can definitely see along the years with various amounts of movies, the like the influence Rambo has had on the genre. So it only seems fair that we before we get to the movie review, we just talk about the ending culminations. You know, like that wild metamorphosis from David Morrell's Rambo, well, the book Rambo, to what audiences in the cinema would be, you know, notified of Rambo, and the birth of actual Rambomania, in a sense. Like, the book itself was like, it was taught in schools, it was highly acclaimed, critically acclaimed, and it was like, it was a really big book for the time. You know, it pretty much went bestseller overnight. So after going through all the trials and tribulations from getting it to various scripts and different versions of the film, you know, inevitably getting to the 3-hour cut of the film, which they edited down. So after cutting out a lot of Sly's dialogue, or most of Sly's dialogue, I would say, and what they would assume to call like stock footage and deleted scenes, you know, like the version of First Blood was, like a version of First Blood, sorry, was formed, you know, from the in fact copy of the film that Sly wanted to buy and then burn because he was so displeased with it. So a new version was made, and it was presented to a test audience, like different test audience members, and they loved the movie, but inevitably they hated the ending. It kind of makes me wonder what it would have been like if they would have seen the actual original 3-hour cut of the movie. You know, like if they still held on to that cut of the movie. But yeah. So they saw like an alternate version of First Blood. So this original version of First Blood, which, you know, I'm like, had the alternate ending, had the suicide ending that we talked about in the last couple of videos. All the deleted scenes and the 3 hour, what the 3 hour could have been. But getting back to this, because I don't want to stray too far, because this is a really long review. You know, so far it's looks like it's going to run in at around 3 hours itself. So anyway, getting back to this, they hated the ending. You know, even going as far as stating that during the screening that Ted Kotcheff be rounded up and hung for what he did to everyone's favorite disaffected Green Beret in the original intended ending of the film. So the crew was forced back to Canada, you know, in an attempt to adjust the film's ending. And when it was presented back to the people and investors, it literally blew the roof off of the cinema scene, you know, and hence was born the birth of Rambomania. You know, it was upon us, only to grow larger and larger, and eventually and inevitably, you know, it would go on to make, you know, franchise history. When it smashed out, you know, 6.5 million on its debut October premiere weekend of release, you know, Richard Crenna would later state that these numbers for an opening week in October was and still is quite impressive. You know, apparently the film cost somewhere around 14 to 18 million. Domestically, it made 47 million, and worldwide, it would crash in at a whopping 125 million. Also, with home video coming up at that, you know, at that time, and the success of selling the film on large scale, you know, in brilliant tactic around the globe. First Blood was, you know, a force to be reckoned with. And it seems the residuals will never stop growing. Like, this movie is still making a ton of money every day. So, that's pretty impressive. And it's pretty much its own genre. And at the same time, that genre was mimicked and cloned and used, you know, with everyone else later down the line, all claiming that it wasn't stemmed from that influence, but we all know it was stemmed from that influence. So, kudos, Sly, you've invented one of the most brilliant forms of hair-raising action genre. Now, needless to say, after the box office release of the film, when it hit home video, because at those times home video was the next big thing, you know, it was just wildfire explosion. You know, in those days, I think, you know, like, you could rent when, you know, imagine, like, everybody, you know, it was like a new wave of like renting videos to watch at home, and it had a really big impact on that scale with like worldwide viewer at home audience. And, you know, even people buying the film in those days, if you wanted to buy a VHS tape or a Betamax tape, it was like almost $100. Like, movies cost, you know, a fortune. Now you would see that for like $2 in a bin, but back then, you know how it goes. So, longer TV cuts of the film with deleted scenes were work printed together and auctioned off, and it was great. You know, it was really great to share those with you in our last 4-part review, the 3-hour director's cut of First Blood. You know, our takes on those scenes in our, you know, last videos were amazing. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. The 82 theatrical print was also auctioned off to Viewer's Choice pay-per-view television. You know, that's where I saw it at my sister's apartment for the first time, and I can still remember seeing the premiere trailer on Viewer's Choice. You know, like, they would actually run that trailer every 15 minutes around the clock for weeks, you know, into months. And I remember vividly as a child watching and waiting to watch it again and again, you know, with soda and chips over and over again. Can you say obsessed much, Matt? Anyway, so the people, yeah. So now, people, we finally arrived to take a look at First Blood 1982, the theatrical cut. You know, this is a cherished moment for me because I've wanted to do this for, you know, many days now. So let us now take a look at this masterpiece in spoiler-filled fashion and see just what all the fuzz is about. And once again, I just want to say thanks for watching. You know, so yeah, thanks for watching. Rambomania would not be the same without you. So let's get to our 7-part season finale, and I really hope you all enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So here we go. I'm a bit groggy and tired because it's been such a long day, but you know, no better way to finish off my birthday than to be talking about one of my favorite influential films of all time, so to speak. So let's get to it. You know, I'm gonna try to do it quick and to keep you guys entertained as much as possible, because I know I can banter on and on sometimes, and I know that is pretty annoying, as a lot of people have pointed out after watching my videos. So we're just going to dive right into it and try to do it as quickly, neatly, and beautifully as possible, and with grace and essence. And I'm so tired that I'm making up words. So here we go. And we'll be back in a moment with Studio Red Band's long-awaited review of the classic 1982 theatrical cut of First Blood. See you there.